Christopher Rivas, author, actor, podcaster, speaker, storyteller. Born in Queens, New York to a Dominican father and Colombian mother, Christopher Rivas spent his early years not only obsessing over James Bond, but also honing his skills as a performer and a storyteller. He hosts 2 podcasts, Brown Enough, which explores the parallel themes of his book through interview-style episodes, and Rubirosa, a 10-episode documentary-style investigation of Porfirio Rubirosa, a Dominican diplomat, race car driver, soldier, Apollo player, who was the inspiration for James Bond. Without further ado, Christopher Rivas, welcome.
I come from Queens, New York. Queens is the most diverse place in the world. That's the fact. It's full of every single color and nationality and type and hip and hair you can think of. There are 138 different spoken languages in Queens, and this is important to my upbringing because I come from a melting pot, and I believe that's what this sort of room embodies, that's what our world embodies, and that's what brownness is to me, this sort of middle space between black and white. So I'll do a little reading, I'll tell you a little more about myself, and hopefully we start this conversation. I'm not an expert because I am brown. I do not speak on behalf of all brown people. That is impossible. If I carry any expertise, it is that of my experience. My experience, I was born this way, in this body, and I have lived this life to the best of my abilities. I know what hurts me and what helps me. Sometimes I avoid what helps and I do what hurts, even when I know I shouldn't. Honesty is what I can control. Honest with the fact that I can deeply want things to change and at the same time be complacent. Honest with my confusion, anger, love, rage, disruption, hurt, lust, and contradictions. Honest about how important and good it feels to see oneself and be seen. Honest about how I am just beginning to discover a space that I didn't even know existed until Ta-Nehisi Coates, a person some academics have called our modern-day James Baldwin, told me in a room full of people that there was no space for my brown body in the race conversation. Who would I have been had I known about this space? The next many years was me finding out I didn't know which way was up. So like any good person in crisis, I started blowing things up in my life. I broke up with a great girlfriend because she was white, and I wrote a New York Times article about it, which ended up going viral. I lashed out at a cop and got thrown in jail. I accidentally radicalized a young Indian student of mine. I started learning Spanish. I started a podcast. I turned down jobs. I burned a lot of bridges. I booked a spot on a network sitcom, and I wrote stories about all of it. And that's what this book is about. Good intentions, falling down, asking big questions, knocking things over, and confronting the truth. And now, right now, I invite you to allow yourself to be moved to speak, to create rituals, to grieve, to take action for the health of the community, which is everyone under the gaze of whiteness. Because someone needs to bring love, exposure, and vulnerability to our invisible world. Someone needs to turn the lights on and say, my culture-filled, melanin, vibrant sisters and brothers, anyone who has felt left out or like their voice or actions don't matter, they do matter. You matter. The main ethos of my work is storytelling. I believe everything is a story, one that you have been made to believe or chosen to believe. And knowing the difference is profound. The world is going to try and tell each and every one of you what you can do, who you can become, what you're capable of. And only you have the ability to rewrite that story or to claim your own story. Words are spells in your mouth. You speak in order to change something. What words are you speaking? What spells are you casting? So that's my question to y'all. What spells have you been casting lately?
Spell of self-worth.
You spell of self-worth. Beautiful. Yeah. I love that. What else?
Spell of confidence.
A spell of confidence. Yeah, beautiful. Thank you. What else? Creativity? Yeah. We need that. We need to think creatively in this world. What else?
Love.
Love. A spell of love. Yeah, we need that too. There's 2 literal wars going on right now with lack of love. And so if we can be more loving, I don't know, maybe we can serve this planet a little more. What else?
Hard work.
Hard work, yeah. It takes a little bit of hard work in order to accomplish things in this life. That's a fact. Anything else? What spells are you casting? Yeah.
Independence.
Independence, yeah. Don't forget community, though, in the independence. You know, we need each other. I think America will often sell you this idea that like you did something by yourself. You didn't do anything by yourself, you know? Regardless of what you think of your parents or where you come from, you needed just enough care in order to be here right now. We need other people. But also know you are enough. Right? Like we can improve so much. We're just like, we think life is a self-improvement project. That's what I think Instagram and TikTok is selling you. Do more, be more, make more, have more, get more, more, acquire more. At some point you have to arrive to a place where you say, I am enough. That this right here is enough to accomplish and get whatever it is I'm dreaming of. My father spoke multiple tongues, not even languages, you know. He spoke street, yo, what up, what's good? He spoke white, yes, sir, yes, ma'am. You know, he spoke Dominican, oye, flaco, ¿cómo está? He spoke all of these different tongues. And that's what we have to do as brown people. We navigate different worlds so that when you're in medicine, you might have to do the yes, sir, yes, ma'am. And then maybe over here you can be like, yo, what's good? It's good to see you. How you feeling? And so it's different. And that's sort of the code switching that we have to do. And so in assimilating, my parents taught my older sister Spanish. She got to spend summers in the DR, but they did not teach me Spanish. It didn't seem important to them, or they just forgot, or they were too busy just trying to like put food on the table. And so in sort of writing this book and in identifying with myself, I knew I wanted to learn Spanish again. And so that's sort of been my practice of the last 3 years.
I'm Hispanic, but I never got to learn the language or much of the culture. And people are like, you're Hispanic, you should know all this, but that's not how it is for everybody.
Yeah.
And it bothers me that people think that.
That's exactly how I felt, and that's what comes up a lot. I started working with this program called Spanish Sin Pena, right? Spanish without shame. Because part of relearning a language you think you should know is the shame that you don't know it. And we don't have to have shame. That's actually way more common than not. This chapter kind of goes into the moment I saw John Leguizamo on Broadway and how as a young person that kind of helped change my life because he was Colombian, he looked like me, he was from Queens, and I saw myself in that theater. It's the first time I'd seen myself on Broadway. And so this is right after I saw the show. Seeing that show at the Court Theater on 48th Street gave me purpose. It's why I dedicated my life from then on to the theater, to being an artist. I studied it in high school, I majored in it in college. I have traveled the world and slept on many a couch doing it. It's quite possible that much of my voice and mission as an artist was born that day. Create art that allows others to be seen. Art that can be a vehicle for disruption, movement, and change. I try to evoke this power and flexibility that the theater can provide when acting on a TV show, and the episode we're filming is titled Salsa. You guessed it, it's about salsa dancing, and in the opening scene, my character, the only Latin character in the show, is eating chips and salsa. Convenient. And he says, and I quote, while a salsa-covered chip, which his white girlfriend feeds him, is in his mouth, "Speaking of salsa, I love salsa dancing. We should go sometime." Yes, while eating salsa the food, he's reminded of how much he loves salsa the dance. If you think this is ridiculous and funny, it's because it is. But wait, there's more. My character then asks his white girlfriend to go salsa dancing with him, which she then lies about by saying she's able to do quite well. She then goes and seeks help from her white male best friend next door. He says he has a ton of experience dancing salsa from his time in Paris, and he decides to teach her. The preceding scene has some Cuban salsa playing, and there's a random rose that ends up in his mouth, and it's a whole thing. After she dances with her white friend, she's super turned on by the salsa, and she decides to sleep with my character for the first time. All of that began because my character ate chips and salsa. Here are the facts. Roses in the mouth are more tango than salsa, and I actually do love to salsa dance. I'm not bad at it either. Salsa is a big part of my life. I grew up watching my parents perfect quick feet glide across the floor. Talk about grace. The two of them make salsa look like the reason we all came here, to be held, to spin, and be spun to fly. But for whatever reason, the writers must have thought it was a little too on the nose to have the only Latin person dancing, so every character danced salsa except me. I wanted to tell them it's unoriginal, it's stereotypical. I wanted to inform them you're making fun of something incredibly special. The great salsero Willie Colon said salsa was the force that united diverse Latinos. Salsa is the harmonic sum of all Latin culture. You can't celebrate salsa without recognizing that its percussion is inherited from African drums. stolen African drums that came over the waters with stolen African bodies. It's not just some sexy partner dance to turn you on that you put a rose in your mouth to. Again, more tango than salsa. I wanted to suggest to them, why don't we do the rueda, a Cuban group dance that's danced in a circle with sometimes up to 100 people. It's beautiful. Your audience will love it. I wanted to ask, we dancing LA or New York style, dancing on the one or the two? You know there's a lot of drama around calling it salsa. The great Tito Puente, the king of timbales, said, the only salsa I know is sold in a bottle called ketchup. I play Cuban music, so maybe we shouldn't talk about dancing salsa while eating salsa. I didn't say anything that day. I swallowed it like I swallowed those chips and I kept my mouth shut. Where was my proudness then? I didn't say anything to them because it's scary, because I needed the paycheck. Also, I'm not a martyr. This isn't some sacrifice I'm making. I love what I do and I'm grateful to do it. You want to know that you walk into a space and you belong. Everything we do is to find this enoughness and this belonging. And so I think in our storytelling, in the spells we cast with our mouths, in the actions we take or the way we speak up when we see injustice, the way we use our voice, that is a way of creating conscious community. A way to say, I see you. I see you. That's a really powerful thing to say to a person. You are safe here. You belong.
Can you tell us a little bit about your educational pathway?
I went to a performing arts high school where I majored in theater and I acted there. And then after high school, I was on Broadway for a little bit in New York. And then I was like, I think I'm overacting. This might be tough. So I became a personal trainer on South Beach and I was like, not happy. So then I went to study acting at a theater conservatory called California Institute of the Arts. It's one of like the premier theater conservatories in the country. And I was the only Latino in my class. There was 2 black people and like me and 1 Latino kid, and that was all of the sort of diversity that was in that university, which it tends to still be a problem in higher ed, unfortunately. And so I studied theater there, and then I lived overseas in Serbia and in Budapest after doing plays. And then I went back to Hollywood and did the whole Hollywood machine and a lot of television shows, and then I got on a show, and that was it. Persistence to me is the most valuable ingredient you can have in your life. How can you stay persistent? A lot of times in Hollywood, I would say in most fields, if you can persist long enough, other people will drop off. And you just kind of will rise to the top that way. I'm not saying you don't need talent, but I think persistence, I love this Will Smith quote. He says, I'm not the best actor in the world, but I will run on the treadmill until I pass out. Like I will just keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. And that is something I feel fortunate that was built up in me. And anything you care about in this life, you don't have to be an actor, if you're writing a book, anything you want in this life, you have to be persistent. Everyone's got a million good ideas. Y'all got a million good ideas, but people spend forever not actually walking towards them because they want to figure it out. How am I going to do it? The how doesn't matter as much as taking the first step, and then the second step, and then the third. You just got to walk in the direction of where you want to be. You don't have to worry so much about how it's going to happen.